I never thought I'd cry on my front porch in broad daylight, with my son clinging to me like he was 5 years old again. But there I was, my 15-year-old boy, trembling, his voice cracking as he whispered, "They left me, Mom. They didn't even check on me." And all I could do was hold him tighter, because I could feel it too. The pain, the shame, the disbelief. The last people I ever expected to hurt him were the very ones I trusted to love him. My own family. Let me take you back just a few weeks before that day. You'll understand why I trusted them, and why I'll never do it again. My name is Eliza. I'm 37, a single mom, and if you ask my family, stubborn to the bone. They'd say I talk too much, stand up too fast, and forgive too slowly. But what they always underestimated was how fiercely I love my son, Jaden. Jaden is my everything. I had him young, just barely 22, right after college, and right after the worst heartbreak of my life. His father walked away before Jaden was even born. My family never really forgave me for picking the wrong man, even though I was the one left holding all the pieces. In their eyes, Jaden wasn't just my son. He was a symbol of my mistake. But to me, he was my miracle. He was the quiet strength that kept me going when I worked 2 jobs to afford his daycare. The reason I skipped meals so he wouldn't feel the hunger I felt. And every time I saw his eyes light up when I walked into a room, I knew I was doing something right, no matter how many times my family judged me for raising him alone. Still, I tried to include them. Birthdays, school plays, holiday dinners. Even when they made backhanded comments like, "He's a little quiet, don't you think? He's nothing like your side of the family. That's probably his father's genes." I bit my tongue more times than I can count, because I believe that family, no matter how imperfect, deserves second chances. But looking back, now I should have realized. The signs were always there. Like that time at Christmas dinner when Jaden was 12. He offered to help set the table, and my aunt smiled at him, but then muttered under her breath to my cousin, "He's polite for now. Wait till he turns into his father." I heard it. I heard every word. But I let it go. Because Jaden was too young to understand what it meant, and I didn't want to cause drama during dinner. I told myself, they don't mean harm. They're just old-fashioned. They'll grow to love him. But some people don't grow. Some people don't even try. By the time Jaden turned 15, we had built a quiet, peaceful life. I had started my own virtual design business from home and was finally able to turn down the second job. Jaden was thriving, top of his class, introverted but kind, and always glued to his sketchbook. He had this way of drawing worlds that didn't exist yet, but somehow felt more real than the one we lived in. Then one week, an opportunity came up. A long-time client invited me to pitch for a major renovation project in another state. It was only 4 days. Just 4. Jaden had school. I didn't want him to miss classes, so I did what I thought was responsible. I called my sister, Melanie. Now, Melanie's always been the golden child. Married young, had twins, works part-time as a teacher's aide, and lives for Facebook posts about motherhood and church brunches. She's also always made it clear that she thinks Jaden's off. Not bad, just not right. But when I called her that day and asked if Jaden could stay at her place for a few nights while I was away, she sounded thrilled. Of course. It'll be good for him to be around his cousins. We'll take care of him like he's our own. I even offered to send extra money for groceries. She refused. That should have been my first red flag. But I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe my family had changed. Jaden was hesitant. "Can I just stay at home, Mom?" "Sweetheart, it's only for a few days. Aunt Melanie's house is close to school. I promise, I'll be back before you even miss me. He didn't argue. He never does, so I packed his bag, made sure his sketchpad was in there, hugged him extra tight, and left for the trip thinking I was being a responsible mother. I had no idea what I was leaving him to walk into. Asterisk, the morning I flew out, I left Jaden standing beside Melanie's SUV. He gave me a small wave, lips pressed tight in that way he does when he's trying not to look nervous. I blew him a kiss and mouthed, "I love you." He nodded. Then Melanie pulled away with that too sweet smile that made me think everything was going to be just fine. The flight, the hotel, the client dinner, everything moved like clockwork. I sent Jaden a goodnight text that first evening. He replied. An hour later, "I'm okay. Good night, Mom." Short, but okay. Day 2, I sent a photo of the conference room. "Big meeting today. Wish me luck." He texted back 3 hours later. "Good luck. Hope it goes well." Still short. That night, I asked him what he ate. No reply. I figured maybe Melanie had them out late. He was probably tired. No big deal. But something in my gut started to feel unsettled. You know that feeling? When the silence isn't just silence, it's heavy. On day 3, I had the morning off. I tried calling him straight to voicemail. I called again an hour later. Still nothing. So I called Melanie. "Hey, just checking in. How's Jaden?" She laughed. "He's fine. Probably off drawing or hiding in a corner like he always does. You know how he is." That didn't sit right with me. "Did he eat breakfast?" I asked. "Oh, I don't know. I think he made toast." I told him there were eggs. But you know he's picky. "Is he okay?" "Yes, Eliza," she said, with a sigh. "He's not a baby, he's 15. That should have been enough for me to say, "I'm coming home." But I didn't, because I needed this client, because I needed this job, because I thought just maybe I was overthinking it. That evening, I got a text from Jaden. "No, hi, just this. Do you think it's okay if I just wait outside school for a while after class?" I blinked at the message. "What?" I typed back fast. "Why? Is something wrong?" He didn't answer. Not that night. Not until the next day. I barely slept. My mind kept cycling through possibilities. Was he being bullied? Did Melanie say something to him? Were her kids treating him badly? The next morning, I opened my email in the hotel lobby, getting ready for the final presentation, when I noticed an unread message from my neighbor, Mrs. Alden. Subject line, "Is everything okay with Jaden?" She wrote, "Hi Eliza. Sorry to bother you while you are away, but I noticed Jaden sitting outside your house today for over an hour. I thought maybe you were back early, but your car wasn't there. He looked tired and cold. Let me know if you need anything." My hands started shaking. Jaden wasn't supposed to be anywhere near our house. He didn't have a house key. He was supposed to be at Melanie's. Why would he be outside? Alone? I called him again. Straight to voicemail. Again. I dialed Melanie. She picked up mid-laugh, like she was in the middle of some casual conversation. "Hey, Eliza. We just made muffins. What's up?" "Melanie, where's Jaden?" Silence. "What do you mean?" "My neighbor said he was outside my house yesterday, sitting on the porch, for over an hour." "Oh, yeah, I guess he went back home." "What?" "Eliza, calm down. He said he wanted space. He's a teenager. You treat him like a toddler. He walked out and said he was going back to your house. I thought he had a key or something." "He doesn't." "You let him leave? Alone?" He's 15, not 5. I didn't hear the rest. I ended the call mid-sentence. I booked the next flight home. I barely remember the plane ride. All I could see was Jaden, his face, his quiet messages, that final text about waiting after school. When I landed, it was already past sunset. I didn't even stop by the house. I drove straight to Mrs. Alden's. She greeted me at the door with a worried look. He came by again today. Sat on your steps for nearly 2 hours. I offered him hot chocolate. He said no, just waited. Then walked down the street with his hoodie up. I thanked her, voice cracking, and drove around until I found him curled up on the side steps of the community library. Sketchbook in his lap, arms wrapped around his knees. When he saw me, his eyes widened, but he didn't speak. He just stood. Slowly, I got out of the car. We stood there in silence for maybe 30 seconds. Then he whispered, "I didn't want to bother you. I just didn't want to be there anymore." And that's when I knew something had happened. Something more than just neglect. I took him home, made him hot soup, and waited until he was warm and dry. And that's when he told me everything. Jaden didn't cry, not once. Not while telling me what happened. That made it worse. I sat across from him at the kitchen table, still in my blazer from the airport, clutching a mug of untouched tea. He had finally taken off his wet hoodie and wrapped a blanket around his shoulders. His sketch pad lay beside him, open to a page he had shaded entirely in black. He looked older somehow. Not 15. 15-year-olds should be talking about video games and finals and friends, not explaining how their own family forgot they existed. He started slowly. They didn't talk to me much. Mom, the first night, I didn't eat dinner with them. Melanie said they were eating late, so I should just make a sandwich. He paused, eyes flickering. There wasn't any bread left, so I didn't eat. I clenched the mug tighter, teeth grinding. Did she know you didn't eat? He nodded. She said I was probably just trying to be difficult. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive to her house and throw every plate in her kitchen against the wall. But I let him keep talking. Her twins wouldn't even look at me. They told me I was weird, that I drew creepy stuff. I wasn't allowed in the living room after the second day. She said I made her kids uncomfortable. He glanced down at his sketch pad and gently closed it, as if ashamed of what was inside. She stopped driving me to school after the second day. Said she was too busy. I tried walking, but it rained and I was late. The front office called home and no one answered, so they let me stay in the library. He swallowed. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want you to feel bad. My vision blurred. Sweetheart, I would have come home. I would have. He shook his head. I know. That's why I didn't tell you. He looked so tired and quiet, like someone who had learned in just 4 days that even the people you think you can count on might see you as disposable. And then he said something I'll never forget. I think they really hate me, Mom. I reached across the table, grabbed his hands, and held on like I could somehow pull all the pain out of him. No, baby, no. They don't get to say who you are. They don't get to define your worth. But deep inside, I knew he was right. They didn't hate him outright. They just didn't care. And that was worse. That night, I sat on the edge of his bed, watching him fall asleep with his sketch pad under his pillow. He still slept curled up like he did when he was small, knees tucked, hands balled into fists. I walked out into the living room, turned off the lights, and stood in the dark for a long time. Then I opened my phone and went through the group chat. I shared with my family, my mother, Melanie, my brother Mark, and my cousin Tasha. The last message was from Melanie, 2 days earlier. Jaden said he doesn't want to be here anymore. Can't deal with his attitude. Eliza better teach him some manners. No one replied. No one checked in. No one cared. So I wrote one sentence. You all abandoned my son. I will never forget this. I hit send. Then I blocked every number. I thought that would be the end of it. But family never knows how to let go quietly, especially when they need something. And it wouldn't be long before they came knocking. Just not for the reason you'd expect. Asterisk for a week. I heard nothing. No calls. No texts. No apologies. Just silence. At first I thought maybe they were letting things cool off, too ashamed to face me. But then I realized something deeper. They didn't think they had done anything wrong. To them, Jaden was a burden. To them, leaving a 15-year-old boy alone, unfed, and emotionally isolated wasn't neglect, it was discipline. Tough. Love. That age-old excuse they used to cover up their lack of compassion. And the more I sat with that silence, the angrier I became. I unsubscribed my mother from our utility bills. I'd been covering her electricity for years. Ever since her stroke, I cancelled the $200 monthly auto transfer that went to Melanie for the twins' after-school programs. I deleted the shared Dropbox folder my brother used to access design templates I created for his failing freelance business. I even pulled my cousin Tasha's name off the marketing campaign I had gotten her into last spring. Then I went completely quiet. No explanation. No drama. Just silence. The kind they had given my son. 3 weeks passed. Jaden was slowly returning to himself still. Quiet. Still carrying a layer of caution I hadn't seen in him before. But he smiled more. He even started drawing again, sketching a scene of a forest with one boy standing alone among tall, silent trees. When I asked him about it, he just said, the trees never told him he wasn't enough. God, that boy. He was more of a man than any of the people who raised me. Then came the phone call. From a number I didn't recognize. I answered on instinct. Hello? Eliza, it's Mark. My brother. I stayed silent. Look, I know things got messy, but I really need to talk to you. I still said nothing. My landlord's threatening eviction. The kids are scared. I can't make rent this month. There it was. The moment of need. Not an apology. Not a hint of remorse. Just a man who remembered that I used to be the one who always bailed him out. I finally spoke. And what does this have to do with the fact that you ignored my son's suffering? He stuttered. I didn't even know what was happening. I wasn't there. Melanie never told us. You were in the group chat, Mark. You read her message. You said nothing. He went quiet. I'm not your backup plan, I said. And I'm not your wallet. You abandoned your nephew. You don't get access to me anymore. Then I hung up. A day later, my mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. I don't know what's going on between you and your brother, but you can't let a silly misunderstanding split the family. We all have to support each other. Silly misunderstanding. Is that what they thought? I played the message for Jaden. He looked at me, a sad kind of half smile on his face. She doesn't get it, does she? No, I said softly. But she will. The next message came from Melanie. A single text. Can we talk? I ignored it. She followed up the next day. I know I messed up. But the girls are confused. They miss you. They miss Jaden. We were thinking of inviting everyone over for a Sunday lunch. Maybe we could fix this. Fix this? They weren't interested in fixing anything. They just wanted things back the way they were. Me paying, supporting, helping while they ignored the damage they did. But I wasn't the same woman I used to be. And Jaden? He had no interest in going back to a house where he was treated like a ghost. I recorded a short video of Jaden, not for the internet, just for them. He sat at the table, looking directly into the camera. You left me. I didn't say anything because I was scared. I thought if I said something, Mom wouldn't believe me. But she did. She always does. He looked away for a second, then back. I don't want to come back to your house. I don't want your food. I don't want your fake smiles. You didn't just forget me. You made me feel like I didn't matter. And now, I don't need you to remember me. He stood up and walked away. I sent that video to each of them. Then I turned off my phone and took Jaden out for pancakes. Thought they might finally back off after that. But I was wrong. Because some people will do anything, say anything, when they realize their lifeline is slipping away. And the next move they made? Well, it was desperate and pathetic. Asterisk, it was a Wednesday evening when the envelope showed up on my doorstep. Not an email. Not a text. A literal cream-colored envelope tucked into the mailbox, with my name written in calligraphy that looked suspiciously like it had been traced from Pinterest. Inside was a folded letter. On top, we want to apologize. For a second, my breath caught. I scanned the names at the bottom. Melanie, Mark, Tasha, even my mother. All signed in different handwriting. Same message. But as I read the letter, my heart sank. It wasn't an apology. It was a script. We're sorry you feel that way. We didn't realize how much Jaden was struggling. No one is perfect, and sometimes misunderstandings happen. We hope we can move forward as a family. I almost laughed. Sorry you feel that way. That's not an apology. That's a manipulation dressed in soft words and guilt-laced undertones. They didn't mention leaving him hungry. Didn't mention abandoning him. Didn't say the word neglect. Didn't say his name. Jaden walked in just as I was folding the letter back up. What's that? He asked. I held it out to him. He read it silently, then handed it back. They want you to forgive them so they don't feel bad. He wasn't wrong. 2 days later, Melanie called. This time I answered, on speakerphone, with Jaden sitting beside me. Hey, she said, her voice syrupy and upbeat. So, did you get our letter? I did. Great. So I was thinking maybe we could all get together next Sunday. Have lunch at my place. You and Jaden. We'll cook, sit down, talk things through. Really talk. I stared at the phone. You. No, he went hungry at your house, right? I said plainly. She didn't respond for a second. Then, Eliza, that's not fair. He never told me he was hungry. He didn't speak up. I thought he was just moody. Teenagers, you know? Jaden leaned closer to the speaker. I didn't talk because I didn't feel safe. Silence. Then Melanie sighed. I'm trying here. You're blowing this out of proportion. That was it. That was the moment I knew this was a performance. They didn't want forgiveness. They wanted restoration. Of comfort. Of convenience. Of the version of me that gave and never demanded anything in return. I paused, then said, Sure. We'll come to Sunday lunch. Jaden looked at me sharply. I gave him a wink. He understood. This wasn't forgiveness. This was closure. Asterisk. Sunday came. Jaden wore all black. Hoodie up. Sketchbook in hand. I wore a blouse they never seen Power red. The one I wore for business presentations. I wanted them to see me not as a daughter or sister, but as the woman they underestimated. The moment we walked into Melanie's house, I saw it all. The performative smiles. The over-decorated dining table. The way my mom looked relieved just to see me walk in. They were ready to pretend nothing had happened. Melanie gave me a side hug. Glad you came. This means a lot. Jaden stood behind me like a shadow. I didn't introduce him. I didn't need to. He was watching, listening. We sat. Dinner began. Melanie started with a toast. To family, to healing, to moving on. I raised my glass. To honesty. She smiled tightly. Then came the awkward small talk. Tasha, talking about her new Instagram hustle. Mark whining about rent prices. No one said a word about Jaden. Until I cleared my throat. Before we move on, I said, I want to know exactly what each of you is apologizing for. Forks paused midder. Mark blinked. Like the misunderstanding? No. Be specific. What did you do wrong? Silence. My mother spoke next. Sweetheart, we're not here to relive drama. We're here to be together. Jaden spoke, voice even. Being together isn't enough if none of you actually cared when I was alone. Melanie flushed. I didn't mean for you to feel abandoned. But I was, he cut in. He stood calmly and pulled out his sketch pad. He flipped it open, page after page, each drawing more haunting than the last. An empty dinner table. A rain-soaked boy outside a house. A dark hallway with closed doors and no light. He said nothing else. Just stood there, showing them who they had been. My mother looked down. Tasha fidgeted. Mark wiped his face with a napkin. Only Melanie tried. Again, I didn't know you felt all that. I met her eyes. You didn't ask. Jaden closed the sketchbook, tucked it under his arm, and walked out. I followed. We never looked back. Asterisk. By the time we reached the car, Jaden hadn't said a word. He just slid into the passenger seat, pulled out his earbuds and stared out the window. Not angry, not emotional, just still. I waited until we were a block away from Melanie's house before speaking. You okay? He nodded slowly. I'm glad we went. I needed them to see. I reached over and squeezed his hand. He didn't let go. What happened next with? My family didn't surprise me. They reacted exactly the way people do when their performance doesn't get applause. First, they doubled down. Mark sent a voice note. That was unnecessary. You made everyone uncomfortable. That wasn't the time or place. Melanie texted the next morning. You embarrassed me in my own home. I was trying to make peace. My mom even emailed this gem. What Jaden did was dramatic. No one ever left him to suffer. He just wanted attention, and now you're feeding into it. You've always been too soft. Too soft. Right. You leave a child to sit alone in the cold for hours, and still think the problem is how much love he gets. I was done. I sent one final message in the group chat. This was never about making you feel better. It was about showing you the reality you chose to ignore. Jaden deserved your care. You gave him your silence. That silence is now permanent. And then I left the group. Blocked them all again. Not out of anger, out of peace. I chose peace. For Jaden. Weeks passed, and for the first time in years, life felt light. Jaden started volunteering at the community art center, teaching little kids how to draw dragons and castles and anything else their imagination could conjure. He smiled more. A real smile, not the polite one. One evening, I came home to find him baking cookies with Mrs. Alden, our neighbor who had looked out for him when no one else did. I hugged her harder than I'd ever hugged any blood relative. Because family isn't about DNA. It's about who shows up when it matters. But the silence didn't last forever. One night, months later, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. Curious, I answered. Eliza. It's Tasha. Her voice was small, meek. I just wanted to say I watched the video again. The one Jaden made. I didn't really see it the first time. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For not speaking up. For letting it happen. There was a pause. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I didn't say anything at first. Then I spoke gently. Thank you for calling. I hope you continue to see. And I hung up. That was it. A quiet apology. Not for redemption. Not for leverage. Just truth. And that I could respect. Jaden and I didn't go back to big family dinners. Or holidays filled with false smiles. We didn't need to. Instead, we started our own traditions. Pizza and paint night every Friday. Midnight walks on the quiet streets. Just the two of us and our shared silence. A silence that didn't hurt. A silence that felt safe. Still, the universe has a funny way of circling back. Just when I thought it was over, another door opened, one that would make my family really see who Jaden had become. And how much they had lost. Asterisk. It started with a single sketch. Jaden had drawn a quiet street at dusk, a boy, sitting alone beneath a flickering street lamp, with shadows stretching behind him like ghosts of people who once said they cared. He posted it to his small art account on Instagram. No hashtags. No caption. Just the image. Within a day, it had 1,000 likes. By the weekend, over 15,000. A local art page reposted it. Then an educator's blog picked it up. Suddenly, my 15-year-old was being messaged by artists, therapists, teachers, all saying the same thing. This captured how it feels to be forgotten. This made me cry. Your art tells the truth people are afraid to say. He didn't react the way I thought he would. He didn't jump or celebrate or shout in excitement. He just sat with me at the kitchen table, showing me the messages, then whispered, "Do you think maybe it's okay now? That they didn't ruin me?" And I almost lost it. I took his hand and said, "They never had the power to ruin you. They just never deserved you." Within a few weeks, Jaden was asked to participate in a youth art showcase at the local gallery. His piece, the one he'd posted, was framed and placed in the center of the exhibit. He didn't want to go at first. What if they come? He asked. Then they'll finally see who you are. And what they try to break. He looked at me, nodded. We went. The gallery was modest white walls, quiet murmurs, soft instrumental music in the background. Jaden wore a button-down shirt. I had to convince him into. He stood beside his piece like a statue, watching people pause in front of it. Watching them tilt their heads, whisper to their partners, blink back tears. A woman with a child by her side stood for 5 whole minutes, then asked him, "Did you draw this from experience?" He just said, "Yes, ma'am." She nodded slowly, then said, "Thank you." That night, he sold 3 pieces. The gallery director asked if he'd consider doing a full collection. Reflections of Silence, she called it. Jaden said maybe, that he'd think about it, but I saw the way his eyes lit up. He had found his voice, not through arguments, not through revenge, but through truth. 2 weeks later, we were at home cooking dinner when I heard a knock at the door. Not a polite tap, a slow, heavy knock. I opened it to find Melanie standing there, clutching a folder, her makeup done like she'd just come from a job interview. Behind her, my mother, and Mark. Jaden peeked from the hallway, then stepped back without a word. Looked them over. All dressed up. Nervous smiles. Almost hopeful. "Can we come in?" Melanie asked. "Why?" I asked flatly. Mark stepped forward. We saw the article. About Jaden. The exhibit. We didn't know he was brilliant. I cut in. Mark nodded awkwardly. My mother looked down. He's really something, Eliza. You did good with him. Melanie offered the folder. I didn't take it. It's a proposal, she said quickly. An idea we had. About starting a family outreach program. Art-based. Maybe Jaden could be a part of it. Inspire other teens. We'd use some of our savings. We thought maybe this was a way to make it right. I stared at her for a moment. You want to build a charity? Off the back of the boy you abandoned? Melanie blinked. No, I mean, yes, but not like that. We just thought, people are listening to him now. And maybe we could be a part of his story, I finished for her. She nodded. I smiled. Cold, calm. You already are. They blinked. He drew you. All of you. You're the empty house. The closed doors. The shadows that left him cold. I stepped back, starting to close the door. You're a part of his story. Just not the part you wanted. Then I shut it. Jaden didn't ask what they said. He didn't need to. He just handed me a new drawing that night. Phoenix rising from ash, with silent eyes watching it burn below. They think this is their redemption arc, he said. But it's not. I smiled. No, baby, this one's ours. After that night, they didn't come back. Not physically, but we'd hear from them. Indirectly. Melanie posted some passive-aggressive status updates on Facebook about family dividing families and how some people forget where they came from. Mark left a comment under one of Jaden's artwork reposts. Proud uncle moment. We didn't reply. We didn't engage. We just moved forward. Because when you've spent your life stitching yourself back together, you stop inviting people who only bring scissors. Jaden was growing, not just taller, but deeper. He started smiling in photos. Again. He got invited to speak at a school panel for young artists. He started designing a series of pieces around forgiveness and boundaries. He called the series, Lines I Don't Cross Anymore. God, I was proud of him, not just for surviving, but for refusing to shrink. Meanwhile, I was growing too. I got the contract from that out-of-state client. The trip that started it all. It paid off in more ways than I could have imagined. I finally had the funds to move us into a bigger place. A small home near the park, where Jaden could walk and draw under old trees that had seen more kindness than most people. We painted the living room together. Burnt orange and soft grey, Jaden's idea. It felt like fall and healing had blended into a single season. A few months later, I sat across from him at our new dining table, watching him sketch something with quiet focus. What are you working on? I asked. He turned the page toward me. A mother, holding her son, their silhouettes outlined in gold ink. Behind them shadows and the shape of wolves fading into mist. At the bottom, he'd written, She didn't just protect me. She gave me back my voice. Tears blurred my eyes instantly. I reached out and touched the edge of the page like it might disappear. You did this, I whispered. He smiled. Just a little, you helped. We built new traditions. Instead of family brunches, filled with judgment, we hosted small get-togethers with people who had proven their worth. Jaden's art teacher, Mrs. Oldham, a boy from the art center, whose parents were going through a divorce and needed a friend. We made hot cocoa on Wednesdays. We started journaling together short little entries. We even planted a tree in our new backyard. Jaden named it Truth. One morning, I got an invitation in the mail. A formal one, from Melanie, her daughter's graduation party. Front and center in the invite. Family is everything. I placed it on the counter, poured my coffee, and slid the invite into the recycling bin. Jaden walked in just as it dropped. "Not going?" he asked, not even curious, just confirming. "No, love, we've got better things to do." He nodded, then held up 2 tickets. "Better things like the art museum in the city." I smiled. Exactly like that. Sometimes I think about what forgiveness really means. It's not pretending it never happened. It's knowing exactly what happened and choosing not to let it define you anymore. It's closing a door and building a new one, somewhere far away, in a house you designed yourself. And Jaden? He's not just my son. He's the architect of a new generation of strength, of expression, of survival through creativity. They left him alone, but he turned that loneliness into gold. Asterisk, asterisk. The day he got accepted into the Young Artists Abroad program, he came running into my room with the letter in his hands, yelling like a child who forgot what it felt like to celebrate. I picked him up, yes, picked him up like when he was 5 and spun him around the kitchen. And he laughed. A full, wild, unstoppable laugh, and I knew we had made it. Not to some magical happy ending, but to something better. A beginning we chose. Together. Asterisk, asterisk. Years passed. Not suddenly, but steadily, like the slow blooming of a flower that had been buried under frost for too long. Jaden turned 17, then 18. Each birthday marked not just a year older, but a deeper healing. A new part of him opened up. He became someone I admired, not just as a mother, but as a woman, as a person who had fought through silence and survived. He started giving talks, published an illustrated memoir at 18, raised in the quiet, and yes, he dedicated it to me, to the woman who loved me when no one else even looked. It hit the bestseller list in the trauma and healing category within 2 weeks. Not because it was flashy, not because it was shocking, but because it was real. People wrote to us from all over the world. Single parents, abandoned teens, teachers, artists, survivors. They wrote about silence, about family hurt, about what it means to be overlooked in a house filled with people. Jaden, read every letter. Sometimes he'd cry. Sometimes he'd just nod, then sketch something for the sender and ask me to help him mail it out. He never stopped giving, because he never forgot what it felt like to be given nothing. Still remember one letter from a boy named Liam in South Africa. He wrote, "When you wrote about sitting on your mom's porch, I felt like you were writing my story. I sat on a bench in front of a school that never remembered my name. But I'm learning to draw now, because of you." Jaden printed it, framed it, hung it above his desk. Legacy isn't always in big museums or bronze statues. Sometimes it's in the quiet change you make in one kid's life halfway around the world. Me? I wasn't just Jaden's mom anymore. I was a keynote speaker, a mentor to other single parents. I started a small non-profit, Table for Two, offering support to parents and kids who've been through familial neglect. Every time a parent said, "I didn't know how to protect my child," I would say, "Start by listening, then by choosing them every single time, even when no one else does." We didn't hear from my family much after that. Occasionally, we'd hear whispers. My cousin Tasha reportedly cut ties with Melanie and now volunteers at a youth center. Mark was still struggling financially, and my mother had moved into assisted living. Melanie? She tried to rebrand herself as a child behavior coach online. Jaden laughed the first time he saw her videos. Then just shook his head. That's not her truth. And that was that. We didn't need revenge. We had reality. On Jaden's 19th birthday, I gave him a wooden box. Inside were all the drawings he'd left around the house over the years. From the early shadows, to the rising phoenix, to the golden mother and son silhouette, each one laminated, preserved. He opened the lid slowly. I watched his face go still. He looked up at me and whispered, "You kept all of them." I smiled. "Of course I did. These drawings? They're your survival story. Your testimony. Your proof." "Proof of what?" he asked. I leaned in. "That you weren't broken. Just waiting to bloom." We hugged for a long time. Not out of sadness, but out of awe. Because there is something holy, yes. Holy about watching your child become something more than the world expected. Not in spite of pain, but through it. Jaden's art hangs in galleries now, but more importantly, it hangs in hearts. His voice, once silenced, now echoes in classrooms, shelters, and dinner tables across the globe. And me? I remain beside him. Not just as a mother, but as the first person who ever said, "I see you, and you matter." ****, it was raining the day he left for the airport. Not a storm, just a soft drizzle, the kind that makes everything look freshly painted. Jaden stood by the open trunk of our car, carefully placing his sketchbooks inside his carry dash on 20-3 years old. Taller than me now, with a calm, self-contained presence that drew people in without him needing to say a word. He was flying to Amsterdam, his first international solo gallery showing. A full exhibit titled, "Echoes of the Unseen." I asked him if he was nervous. He shook his head. "Not really, just ready." Then he looked back at the house. Our house. The orange and grey living room. The backyard tree, truth taller now, blooming even in the rain. "I'll miss this place," he said. "But not because of the house." I smiled. "Because of the story." He nodded. "Because of how far we've come in it." After he boarded, I sat in the car a long time. Not crying, just feeling everything. Pride, peace, gratitude. A deep, warm kind of gratitude. The kind that seeps into your bones when you realize. You made it. We made it. 6 months later, I got a call from a journalist in Amsterdam. He had just left Jaden's gallery show and wanted a quote for the piece he was writing. As his mother, he said, "What do you think makes his work so resonant?" I paused. Then said, "Because it's honest. Because it doesn't ask for sympathy, it offers solidarity. Because it reminds people they're not alone." He was quiet for a beat, then thanked me. Jaden's art has now been translated into 6 languages. But my favorite place it hangs is still on our fridge. A sketch he drew when he was 17. A house with 2 chairs at the table. A small tree outside the window. A mother and son facing each other, smiling. He wrote on the bottom, "This is where I began again. ***, we still talk every day. No topic too small. Sometimes he sends me pictures of his lunch. Sometimes I send him photos of our garden, or truth, now towering with thick roots and birds nesting in its branches. He always says the same thing when I show him how much the tree has grown. Of course it did. You planted it with love. And that's what this whole story really is, isn't it? Not just revenge. Not even justice. But love. Love that refused to leave. Love that stood in the cold and waited. Love that said, "I see you even when others don't." Jaden was abandoned. But he was not lost. He was not invisible. He was not broken. He was simply waiting for the world to stop silencing him. And when it did, he spoke. He drew. He bloomed. So, if you're out there, feeling unseen, forgotten, left behind by the people who were supposed to care, let this be your reminder. You are not the silence they left you in. You are what comes after. You are the story they never saw coming. Asterisk. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment revenge so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know where are you watching from. Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy. Asterisk.